Alright, today I want to circle back and yet again discuss the proposed loot box regulation bill that is making its way through the United States government, but this time I want to focus in on one specific genre of the industry, sports games. In the past, I've discussed how the grasping arm of governmental regulation is a very dangerous thing, how legislation aimed at improving the industry and eliminating predatory practices can easily have unintended side effects, or worse, be outright manipulated. But today, I want to discuss the very real and guaranteed consequence of this bill, were it to pass in any form even remotely close to what it currently shows. To be clear from the onset here, I have very mixed feelings regarding the bill. One, I never expected it to even make it this far, though that proved to be an incorrect assessment seeing as it now has bipartisan support and will be progressing further than the previous similar iterations before it. Two, I have serious reservations about governmental regulation on principle. And three, I believe there is a better way forward through industry self-regulation, but that self-regulation seems to be non-existent. I am of the mindset that incremental regression away from these current monetization trends is ideal, but that simply may not happen at this stage. So here we are, staring down the barrel of a blanket pay-to-win and loot box regulation bill that will have rippling effects across the entire industry. Now, setting aside these reservations regarding the method by which we approach industry change, I should make it clear that industry change is absolutely necessary. However, my focus today is to project forward a scenario in which this regulation passes and pointedly discuss the sports genre, because that will be one of the areas largely eviscerated by the bill in any form. The trifecta I will mostly discuss are what I consider to be the big three: Madden, FIFA, and 2K. Especially within the United States, those are three of the most popular sports franchises, and all three of them would be square in the crosshairs of this regulation. Now, for clarification here, I won't have gameplay of these titles in the background because I don't actually play any of them, not personally anyways, but there are plenty of gamers that do, and since this does not pertain to gameplay balancing or my own competency within those games, it's still a worthwhile topic. Each of these games have three main things in common. First, they contain loot boxes, commonly referred to as packs, which are purchased with in-game premium currency, and that premium currency is tied to real-world dollars. Second, those packs contain players with varying characteristics and stats which directly affect gameplay performance. And third, teams constructed using these cards and players are sometimes sold for real-world dollars through an off-book player-based economy. These instances are rare, yes, but the transactions absolutely do happen. Two of these games, Madden and FIFA, are owned by EA, or Electronic Arts, a very, very well-known company that is quite despised at the moment. And the third, 2K, is under the umbrella of Take-Two Interactive, also a company with a very bad reputation. In the past, FIFA specifically has come under fire, most notably having to disable the Ultimate Team function in Belgium after the mechanism was declared illegal by the Belgian government, which categorized the currency and game functions as gambling, thus restricting their availability. EA notably said during their response to this that they disagree with the Belgian authorities' interpretation of the law, but eventually they did still comply. This I find to be hilarious and also frightening. A multi-billion-dollar corporation is openly trying to dispute the ability of sovereign government to interpret the very laws that they themselves created. There is a severe disconnect there between reason and greed. Moving on, however, various other countries have been examining the concept of loot boxes, and that lands us in the United States, as one of the largest video game economies on the planet, with their proposed legislation pushing forward as we speak. Now, I won't read the whole bill here, I've analyzed it in the past, but the most important segment pertains to the pay-to-win nature of microtransactions. Pay-to-win microtransaction. In general, the term pay-to-win microtransaction means an add-on transaction to a digital interactive entertainment product that, with respect to an interactive digital entertainment product that, from the perspective of a reasonable user of the product, is a game offering a scoring system, a set of goals to achieve, a set of rewards, or a sense of interactive progression through the product's content, including but not limited to narrative progression, eases a user's progression through the content otherwise available within the game without the purchase of such transaction, assists a user in accomplishing an achievement within the game that can otherwise be accomplished without the purchase of such transaction, assists a user in receiving an award associated with the game that is otherwise available in association with the game without the purchase of such transaction, or permits a user to continue to access content of the game that had previously been accessible to the user but has been made inaccessible after the expiration of a timer or a number of gameplay attempts. Or, 2, with respect to the interactive digital entertainment product that, from the perspective of a reasonable user of the product, is a game featuring competition with other users, provides a user with a competitive advantage with respect to the game's competitive aspects over users who do not make such a transaction. Now, I'm going to ignore the fact that by this definition, almost any game in existence with microtransactions that are not cosmetic only will qualify as pay to win, since they tie this to narrative, or even more broadly speaking, a set of goals to achieve or interactive progression. It means that even games like Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which has currency, crafting materials, and XP boosters, would be determined as pay to win and could be regulated. Now, individual viewers may be for or against this, and personally, I think that having microtransactions removed from games like Assassin's Creed Odyssey is a good thing, but the game is single player, and I doubt many competent gamers would view it as a definition-conforming pay-to-win game. Yet, it would be subjectively determined by some committee, individual, whatever it is, I'm not really sure, some disconnected political group, what does and does not qualify in an industry where most games now qualify, and the consequences of this might end up being fairly immense. But anyways, that was a bit of a tangent. The main point here is that even a game like Assassin's Creed Odyssey could easily be subjected to the bill's effect, but games like Madden, 2K, and FIFA will certainly be encompassed, and not just in one or two ways, they will meet virtually every single criteria laid out in this bill on multiple counts. Since the packs are loot boxes, in effect, that's strike one. The contained players augment gameplay, strike two. There is an existing real-world economy for those players, strike 2.5, sort of, because it's not directly tied to EA, and thus they can easily dodge accountability, but in the larger picture it's still worth mentioning. The rewards can also be tied to goals, they can be tied to accomplishments or progression, strike 3, 4, 5, and the list goes on. By every definition on every single level, FIFA, Madden, and 2K will be hit by this regulation bill with literally no defense whatsoever. Here's where a lot of viewers will be thinking, nice, hell yeah, good, that's what they deserve. And I sort of agree there, But when the profit model for these games has shifted almost entirely away from box sales and now rests almost exclusively on the shoulders of further per user spending, it poses a problem when it comes to their continued viability for major publishers in a post-regulation environment. In the past, these games existed without loot boxes or microtransactions. All games did, and an easy argument to make is that they should and can simply return to that. That is partially true, but mostly false. Yes, in the past, sports franchises existed without these predatory methods of monetization, but now, they not only use them, the entire annualized franchise is built around them. Furthermore, the structure of corporate America is based upon continuous and consecutive quarterly or at the very least yearly profit expansion. Whether or not that is a viable ethical or moral economic truth is a topic for a totally different day and video, but that is the current truth. As a result, having a regulation bill pass which kneecaps the ability of these sports franchises to maintain their current exorbitant profit levels will immediately have ramifications. For starters, the entire Ultimate Team model seen in FIFA and Madden and its equivalent counterpart in 2K, which are the backbone of online multiplayer, will have to be totally redesigned. Now, this might be simple, maybe it would be simple, but because of the profit expectation we just discussed, it isn't. As a result, these systems will need to be redesigned in such a way as to supplement at least most of the income on a per-user basis that is lost with the removal of packs. This may take a number of different forms, but the most likely one I can picture is advertising and brand placement. A good example would be the very recent situation regarding 2K itself. Within the game, advertisements were piped right into the pre-game loading screen, and unless users disabled a specific settings toggle, which was enabled by default and would hide the ads, they were unskippable. To compensate for the complete loss of microtransaction revenue, it will require a level of frequency in advertising that is not just invasive, it could be borderline unplayable. Another angle to consider is the conceptual nature of these sports games. For an easy comparison, we can examine Call of Duty. Call of Duty is another annualized release that may have to make minor adjustments should this bill in its current form come to pass. But year after year, Call of Duty has the option of changing its setting, or its gameplay, or even its premise. We are seeing that happen right now as we speak, as Activision steps away from the zombies mode and focuses on a gritty, real-world-esque single-player campaign. FIFA or 2K or Madden are sports games. There is not a lot of room for conceptual innovation in a sports game, but with the need to maintain profit levels artificially inflated by loot boxes and pay-to-win functions, and a relatively non-existent ability to innovate and provide truly new material to spike box sales, at least not high enough to compensate for it, these publishers face a very unique problem. Again, here is where many viewers will be rejoicing, but the incoming legislation, if or when it comes to pass, is going to hit like a truck, and for sports games, it's going to back up and run them over again for the double tap. I have no idea what exact chain of events will play out, but with the large additional cost of a fundamental rework just to sell the game in the United States, despite it being an enormous market for them, it is possible that they will simply not offer the game in this region, continue to harvest what they can from countries on a global scale that have not regulated their model, and basically change nothing. It is also possible that they flip from an annualized model to a series that releases every few years and contains more material. That's probably one of the more ideal outcomes here. Or that they bastardize the game with so much advertising it becomes more worthwhile to turn on cable television at 2:30 in the morning. There is as of yet no legislation to prevent them from selling skip ad consumables and just mutilating the game with unskippable video ads. The bill does contain language aimed at such a practice, but it is loose compared to other segments and could easily be manipulated. It could be any one of these or 1,000 more options, and I'm not confident saying that the bill would permanently kill these sports games, but the possibility is there, and it would certainly hurl a curveball at them that will catastrophically disrupt the timeline and familiar condition of the franchises. You may not care about sports games. Personally, I don't actually play them, but with such a large population of gaming consumers that do, it's worth discussing, since the further this bill goes, the more prepared they need to be for the collision between that regulation and the most vulnerable games in the market. It's logical to view the situation as not my problem. I've heard a lot of gamers and creators echo that. It's not my problem, it's their problem. But the sad reality is that all problems, regardless of who caused them or why, often trickle down to the end user. We can see it most recently with the new tariffs levied against China. Should they persist, since they specifically include game console hardware, Sony and Microsoft have openly stated that it could raise the price of the incoming console generation by over 25%, and a flat quarter price hike is no small thing. The companies are not going to eat that. The end user is. It doesn't matter if you think it's not your problem, it actually is. That's it for today, though. If you want to support the channel, check out the links down below. We have merch, memberships, the usual stuff, and a lot of other things as well, but I'll cut it there and stop rambling. As always, thank you all for watching, and have a nice night.